Welcome back to our sequence on the engineering design cycle. In this session, we will look at another element of the test and evaluate phase of the cycle. The testing which is done at the user level. Will the users like the design? Will they use the design as we anticipated? There is no better way to find out, even if we are a team of engineers rather than a marketing team, than by asking the very users we seek to serve with our design. Here, we will look briefly at how to proceed with user-level testing at a relatively informal level. As engineers who simply seek to verify that we are on the right track with our design. Much more sophisticated and extensive user-level testing may happen later with a different team or on our own team. But while still in the engineering design cycle, we will restrict our user-level testing to a scope that helps us with our design without incurring prohibitive delays in the design process. As one might imagine, the first step in any user-level testing is to select the users. Who will be the most likely users of this design? Men, women, children, persons of a certain age, certain ethnicity, or other demographic? As an example, consider an air quality monitor designed for installation on bicycles. Our top demographic for user testing just might be adults commuting in urban environments and cities. We can target at least 3 to 5 of these typical bicycle commuters from our own personal or professional network. At this stage, there usually is not a need to ensure that our population is totally random and unbiased. That will come much later in product testing. Once we have identified potential users for our user-level testing, we are then tasked with identifying a representative environment for that testing. In some cases, such as this example, we can duplicate that environment. In a carpal tunnel monitoring system, we can sit our potential users down at a desk with a keyboard and ask them to use our system or a mock-up of the system, and thereby get their feedback very directly on the appeal and function of our design. In this next example, user testing can also be done in a representative environment. If we are testing the proper wear of certain eyeglasses in this application, we can place the user in a car or using a computer or using machinery to convey to those users the context of the application. Placing the user directly in the context of our design's application almost certainly ensures more accurate and more extensive feedback than simply telling the user about the application context. In situations where it is too complicated to place the users in the application directly, we may have to use a storyboard to describe that context. A storyboard, borrowed from the film industry, will describe what the user may be doing up to, during, and after using the design. Again, to create the feel of actually being there, so that the user is more likely to provide accurate and insightful feedback as to the goodness of our design. Once we have chosen our users and placed each user in the application context, we can then ask them to use our prototype or a suitable mock-up of our design. At this point, it is our turn to simply watch what the user does while saying very little. What are they doing? How are they using the design? Are they using it as we intended it, misusing it, misunderstanding it? As we watch, it is important to observe without interpreting, taking notes simply on what the user is doing so that the design team, in whole or in part, can evaluate the implications to the design or redesign much later. After observing the user work with and use the design, we may then choose to offer a questionnaire or survey to the user. The best surveys consist of both close-ended questions, such as Likert scale or multiple choice questions, and open-ended questions, which do not lead to a certain range or selection of answers, as close-ended questions tend to do. User-level questionnaires are great for providing feedback about the design, but also for providing some starting basis for the usefulness of the design, should that come into question during a design review or other evaluation by external parties. For most designs, user-level testing will be more of an informal than a formal and extensive process during the engineering design cycle. Here, we have looked at 3 easy steps to follow for informal user testing. And we conclude our test and evaluate testing by considering the user, the customer, the individuals, and others who we intend our design to benefit. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that this overview has encouraged you to try some user testing in your own design cycle, and that you will join us again as we take a detailed look at other phases of the engineering design cycle.